Nvidia stock is expected to report earnings very soon, and today I want to take a closer look at everything Nvidia stock investors should know before the big day, from recent products, partnerships, earning estimates, price targets, to potential catalysts. Year to date, the stock is up over 50%. Can it go higher? I honestly think the answer is yes, but before we start, welcome to those not familiar. My name is Jose Najarro, and I spend way too much time reading about semiconductors and AI. But thanks to that, my education and work experience, I believe I have created the number one semiconductor podcast for investors. So let's get started with today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
For those not familiar, Nvidia is my number one position in my overall portfolio. I was really screaming a nice buying opportunity when we did see those over inventory corrections in 2022. So the first thing I want to take a closer look at before looking at guidance are all the products and partnerships the company has announced in this past quarter. So the first thing I want to mention is GTC keynote is happening on Monday, March 18th. This is where Nvidia CEO is going to announce all the new solutions that they're going to come up with in the upcoming years. I do believe we're going to hear about their next generation product, which is going to be the Blackwell 100. We're also going to learn about maybe the future of their CPUs, the future of their AI software solutions, and the list goes on and on. So the keynote is on Monday, March 18th. We're definitely going to cover it. And if you are an Nvidia investor, that's something you're going to want to keep your eyes on and something to watch. Now, in forms of new products, there's going to be a lot of new products that the company announced. We've done plenty of videos on them, but just a quick refresh. They were kind of bringing personalized GPT chatbot to those that have an RTX or NVIDIA's GPU in a laptop or a desktop, which I thought was pretty interesting. Announced on February 12th a new kind of GPU for the workstation market that's going to help with AI acceleration, design, and visualizations. We also saw early in January they did announce the new RTX 40 Super Series. On November 20th of 2023, we did see that NVIDIA's new Ethernet networking platform for AI will soon be available by some of their partners, and that's expected to actually be available here in the first quarter of 2024, or their fiscal year of 2025. We did see NVIDIA kind of talk a little bit more that, hey, look, their Grace Hopper 200 chip, which is a mixture of their CPU and GPU, is going to power over 40 plus AI supercomputers across the world. We also heard on November the H200, which is going to be not their next generation, but kind of a second variant, an upgraded version of their H100. On November 15th, NVIDIA announced the AI Foundry service, where you're going to be able to kind of train your models using NVIDIA's DGX clouds. You're going to build your custom clouds using NVIDIA's AI Foundation models, and you're going to deploy your AI solutions using NVIDIA's AI Enterprise software. Outside of that, NVIDIA also did announce that, hey, look, the H100 and the H200 are going to come to new accelerated computing workloads in Microsoft. Now, let's take a closer look at partnerships. NVIDIA on February 6th did announce that Cisco and them are going to work together to easily deploy and manage secure AI infrastructure. We also see that NVIDIA is really bullish in sovereign AI, which is kind of bringing AI solutions to multiple nations. We can see on February 5th that they kind of made a partnership with Canada to bring supercomputing powers. We also saw the same thing with Singapore, bringing sovereign AI to Southeast Asia. And we've seen even here in the United States, where the United States and NVIDIA have kind of partnered to create this form of AI research initiative, obviously powered by NVIDIA infrastructure and software solutions. Some other partnerships too kind of announced. NVIDIA does have kind of a clouding solution that focuses on bringing games to the cloud. They do have a pretty cool partnership with Microsoft and Activision and Blizzard games, so they did announce some of those pretty cool there. Some other things on January 8th, we did see that a lot of different EV makers chose NVIDIA's Drive hardware and software solutions to partner up to develop their next generation of cars. One of my favorite announcements was on November 28th, where AWS and NVIDIA announced a strategic collaboration to offer new supercomputing infrastructure, software, and services for generative AI solution. So obviously, AWS is a big player here in the cloud market, and partnering up with them is a big deal. NVIDIA has also partnered up with a lot of biotech and kind of just the overall drug discovery market, where we see here on November 21st, NVIDIA collaborates with Gene Tech to accelerate drug discovery using generative AI. Dropbox and NVIDIA also team up to bring personalized generative AI to millions of customers. We saw NVIDIA and Scaleway Speed, which is kind of a cloud server provider out in Europe, partner up to kind of bring clouding solutions to the European market. We saw Nvidia and Amdocs bringing custom generative AI to global telecommunication industry. So that's everything that Nvidia has kind of announced in the past few months. And as you can see, it's been a lot of new products for the consumer market, a lot of new products for the data center market, a lot of new software solutions, a lot of new partnerships with big players from AWS to here we see telecommunication industry to the kind of pharmaceutical and medicine market as well, the autonomous driving as well. So a lot of opportunities for Nvidia to grow in this industry. All right, so next I want to take a closer look at some commentary and the transcripts from Nvidia's most recent earnings. And the things that I have highlighted, in my opinion, are very important to keep an eye out, because they already kind of gave us a tone, especially for the upcoming year. So we want to make sure that this tone hasn't shifted to the downside. Obviously, we would want to see this tone shift to the upside, but if it shifted to the downside, it could be a yellow flag or a red flag of what to expect maybe in the upcoming quarters. So the first thing I want to showcase is the purchase commitments and obligations for inventory and manufacturing capacity were $17.11 billion this quarter. I think that is insane. And for those that are not familiar, I went to their 10Q report and we can see purchase obligations here reflect commitments to purchase components used to manufacture their products, including long term supply and capacity agreement, certain software and technology license, other goods and serviced, and long lived assets. And as we can see, as of October 29th of 2023, they had outstanding inventory purchase and long-term supply and capacity applications totaling $17 billion. And a good portion of that, 6.5 billion, is pretty much for the last quarter of 2024. I remember when I covered Nvidia during this earnings, I actually even took a closer look at prior years. And this is insane how much they have just for the last quarter of 2024. But we know Nvidia is seeing an improvement in supply chain issues for their GPUs. And for those that are not familiar, just a quick reminder, right now, the H100 is supply constrained. There's too much demand and not enough supply. But every quarter, we keep hearing that things are improving. TSMC just reported earnings about a month ago, and they mentioned, hey, look, we are improving, and it's going to continue to increase every quarter. NVIDIA has said the same thing. Hey, look, things are improving, and every quarter we should see an increase. Now, for 2025, they already have obligations, pre-purchase obligations of almost $12 billion. And I do believe once we look at this 10Q report, this number is going to be insane. So this is kind of a great indication that NVIDIA has a great lead on the supply chain market right now. Now, the second thing I want to take a closer look at is revenue expectations. We can see revenue is expected to be roughly 20 billion plus or minus 2%. Now, if we take a closer look at quarter three was roughly 18 billion, right? And the quarter before that was 13 billion. The one before that was 7 billion. So we continue to see those sequential growth in the revenues. What's driving a big bulk of that revenue is pretty much the data center market. The data center market has now become almost 80% or more of this company's total revenue. And I do believe that's going to continue to be the case, where data center is going to be the main driver of this company's overall growth. So some other things that we have to keep an eye out for during this earnings call is the Chinese market. So Nvidia has been hit with regulations where they can't send a nice amount of products, unfortunately, to China due to kind of national security. And previously, China has contributed approximately 20 to 25% of data center revenue over the past few quarters. And they do expect that their sales to these destinations will decline significantly in the fourth quarter, though they believe it will be more than offset by the strong growth in other regions. To me, that still boggles my mind that a company can lose 25% of their revenue in the data center market and say it's not really going to affect them due to the overall demand they see globally. What we are going to want to see is any updates. We did hear that following the clear lines. NVIDIA was working with the government to kind of release new products in China that met the regulations, and they will be able to continue shipping in China. So, what we're going to want to hear here in the first quarter is what is the update status? When are we going to start to see any shipments to China? And what kind of revenue expectations can we see in the upcoming quarters from that part of the region? So, that's going to be a very, very important portion, in my opinion. There was a great question by an analyst on their most recent earnings, and they asked, hey, if it weren't for the China restrictions, would the quarter four guidance have been higher, or at the end of the day, are they supply constrained? NVIDIA pretty much mentioned if China restrictions weren't there, obviously some issues are supply constrained, but there are some products that they could have continued to ship over there. So, in theory, guidance would have been a little bit higher in quarter four. And this is what I do believe could be a potential catalyst for this company. If this company really teams up with the United States government and finalizes a product to be able to be shipped out to China, we can see revenue expectations for the upcoming quarter and year be a lot higher than analysts expected. So if we do see something there in the bright side, I do believe that can be very, very bullish to the overall stock price. Another thing that we did see here from NVIDIA's last earnings call is they did mention that they're starting to see some pre-revenue of their data center CPU, the Grace, and they do expect this to ramp up to a very fast to a multi-billion-dollar product line. And this is going to be a very, very large product for them. I do believe a lot of analysts aren't really expecting too much from Grace Hopper or just the Grace CPU product in general. So in theory, this, in my opinion, could be another catalyst that can really drive more revenue here for the data center market to overall be able to beat analyst expectations. Right now, Jensen mentions that there are a variety of different reasons to drive the success of Grace Hopper, but they're off to an extraordinary start, and this is a home run product. Another thing Jensen did mention, one of the analysts was wondering, hey, look, 2024 seems to be a strong year for you guys coming in, but do you believe that 2025 can also be a growth? And this is someone talking about not this year, but the upcoming year. And Jensen absolutely believes that the data center can grow in 2024 from the huge growth we're seeing here in 2023. So he believes 2023 was a great year, 2024 can continue to grow, and 2025 can also be a strong year for this company's revenue in the data center market. They mentioned that they already won the broadest and largest and most capable supply chain in the world. So overall, if this AI generation AI solution is a multi-year involvement in technology, then Nvidia can continue to win. And again, this could be another catalyst for the overall stock. All right, so next I want to take a closer look at what Wall Street expects. For earnings per share, they expect $4.63, and for revenue, they expect roughly $20.5 billion. This is pretty much in line with what Nvidia kind of guided for us this quarter. They gave us 20 billion plus or minus 2%. So it's not like analysts are expecting anything crazier than what Nvidia has guided. So I personally don't believe to some extent that Nvidia is priced to perfection. Now, I do believe Nvidia is going to be on both earnings per share and revenue, and we're going to see some Wall Street analysts actually believe that as well. Now, if we take a closer look though, PE ratio forward is sitting at 34, which is the next 12 months. PE ratio forward 1 year, which is pretty much the next 24 months, is sitting at 27.5. So it's not the most expensive company out by far, and it's definitely not the cheapest either. I do believe Nvidia, though, has to really outbeat in forms of guidance, and for the full year or for the upcoming quarter, we need to continue that overall positive tone in forms of revenue expectations for Nvidia to continue to see that nice trail up in growth. If there's any small hesitation anywhere, I do believe we might see some negative decline. But overall, I'm very bullish based on what we're seeing right now. Right, we did have big tech report earnings. All big tech is increasing their capex in our AI servers and AI investment. So obviously, we're going to continue to see a nice growth in data center solutions. So now let's take a closer look at future revenue estimates. So for quarter two, analysts are expecting somewhere between $21.9 billion in revenue. That will be another sequential growth if Nvidia gives us that 20 billion. So they expect expect maybe another $2 billion growth the upcoming quarter. And for the full year, they expect $94 billion. Again, I do believe this quarter they're going to beat expectations, and they're also going to beat the guidance quarter expectations as well. I'm probably going to get somewhere between 23 billion and not 22 billion from what we're seeing right now. There were a few analysts that have just kind of increased the price target from Nvidia. Susquehanna does expect the revenue to be roughly 21.5 billion in the fourth quarter and 23 billion in the first quarter. And that's pretty much what I'm expecting to, that 23 billion at least. And I do believe they're going to be in overall revenue for this quarter as well. The main reason is he does believe that they're going to outperform in the data center market. Now, what we see from analysts, the data center is expected to be roughly $16.86 billion. If we remember, last quarter was 14.5, so an extra $2.1 billion here. Based on what we're seeing with supply chain issues, I can definitely see that growth of $2 billion right now. But again, this is the minimum NVIDIA has to do. If not, we're going to see some negative price action in the overall stock. Now, there was one final analyst, Loop Capital, that did kind of give us estimations also for the upcoming quarter. Loop, for example, believes that NVIDIA will actually have $23 billion this quarter in revenue. And for the upcoming year, they're going to guide to 26 billion. They're being very, very bullish, but they are very excited about the AI market. We can see like I mentioned, Street expects more, roughly 20.2 billion for this quarter. And for next quarter, they expect 21.7 or so. So Loop is pretty bullish. And because of that bullishness, they ended up giving NVIDIA a price target of $1,200. And that $1,200 will actually be, based on their expectations, a PE ratio of 30. So if that's the case, I do believe NVIDIA investors have nothing to worry about. I'm going to guess the real answer is Loop is maybe a little bit too bullish. We're going to see somewhere closer in the middle between what Loop is expected and what the street is expected. So some of the questions that we're going to have during the earnings is, can NVIDIA grow outside of 2024? Like we saw from Jensen, the answer was yes from him. He believes it can grow in 2024 and 2025. Another question is, how strong can this Grace CPU? Is it going to outperform analyst expectations in forms of revenue for the Grace CPU product? I do believe the answer is going to be yes there as well. Another question we're going to have is China and the future products and revenue segments in China. Can that improve? I do believe the answer there is going to be yes, it could improve, and we're going to see it pretty soon. So I do believe all of those are catalysts, and some other catalysts that we can continue to see is just the overall demand for AI computational power as we continue to see more and more AI solutions come out around the world, increase investments by big players like we're seeing from AI, from Meta, and from all these other cloud server providers. So I do believe there is the probability of NVIDIA running up even after earnings. But at the end of the day, the semiconductor market always seems to smack us in the face. In the future, there might be a time where we might see things like over inventory correction or a decrease in demand due to certain things that can definitely cause a negative price action. But at the moment, I'm still very, very bullish in NVIDIA. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.